Hi, and welcome back to The Positive Side with Larry and Sharon. I'm Larry Rifkin, sitting beside me, Sharon Pannoni, and today we're going to discuss probably the reason for us choosing a spiritual path and what life is about, and that really comes down to freedom. We want to be able to be free to do, to follow our bliss. How's that? To follow our bliss, to find our happiness, to be ourselves.
That's key. For me, anyway.
Yeah,
I think freedom is my number one passion. For me, that's when I feel most alive, when I'm free and I'm able to be creative and express myself and not be stunted by anything. And I think that, when you look back in history, when you look back at history, we need to look up the word freedom, because I don't actually know how they have it defined in the dictionary. But when you look at it, it's always a struggle for people to be, to be who they want to be in this world. It seems as though.
Whether it's on a personal level or a community level, and on a personal level with ourselves, on a community level. Right now we are going into April of 2013, and there is a big discussion on a lot of major issues right now. I think one of the most major issues that's in front of the Supreme Court for the second day on arguments is
Gay rights.
Gay rights, and
marriage. Freedom to marriage.
Right.
We've had women's rights. We've had, freedom of the slaves. We've had, all of those things. And if you look at it, it's only been within the last 100 or so years, right?
Well, yeah, I think a little bit it has been, but for a lot of it, freedom's been around since the beginning of time.
Well, there's been a fight, but with freedom, it seems like there is always a battle.
Yes, but I would still say that even the cavemen had that issue.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm not that old.
If you
I don't know about that one.
From what I've heard, I wasn't actually around.
Well, he's got those connections.
I have a lot of old friends. But even in the time of cavemen, they wanted to be free. They wanted to be able to do what they wanted to do. Going back to the Industrial Revolution, what happened during the Industrial Revolution and bringing around what we know today as unions, labor unions, things like that, was a struggle for freedom from an oppressive company.
Or what is perceived as an oppressive company.
Absolutely,
because
and it all comes down to perception.
I think freedom for everybody is different. And so, a company is run this way or whatever, and that's what that they want to run. If people within that company look at different things for freedom, it depends on how many people it is, for there to be an uprising for unions. And then in freedom, especially in my opinion, when it's associated to a large group, you have a freedom, and then that breakaway all of a sudden starts to create their own structure and their own box and their own, you know what I mean? So it's like you're always breaking out of it on a personal level. I want to talk about it on a personal level too, because in the sense of freedom, in my opinion, we create our own boxes. We create our own cages by our thoughts that we believe. And for myself, I had a lot of invisible bars around myself throughout the years that I've slowly been taking that little file and filing away. Some break away more easily, but others don't. And for me, when I say freedom is my number one passion, I know that when I find myself, when I look around and I'm asking myself what's wrong with me, because maybe things are good, but there's still something inside of me that feels, trapped or unhappy. That's when I know there's something about my creativity or my feeling of having more freedom feels stifled. You know, I go back to, I was watching a video that I made when I left my marriage, and I remember coming home and going in my mind with the struggle for so long before it, and this was over a long period of time, but it was, you know, I had a good job, I was making good money, I did a good job, and I would come home and I was unfulfilled. And I was married to a good man, my husband. That's what I like to call him. I think X is so negative. My husband, and I was married to a good man. But we probably shouldn't have been married because it just wasn't working. So those feelings that, you know, you struggle with yourself, and either you try to have the flowers planted and it works and it blooms, and all of a sudden that cage becomes you know, something beautiful. Yeah, a garden. Or you have to, in my opinion, you have to do something about it.
And that's personal freedoms and
Isn't it all that?
yeah, but there's also a collective freedom. There's collective freedoms on a community level, there's collective freedoms on a national level, there's collective freedoms on a global level.
Yeah.
You know, there are struggles in countries, third world countries, you know.
Struggles,
Yeah, there are struggles here in the United States, absolutely. So when we talk about freedom, we have our individual freedoms, and then we have a collective mindset, or a collaborative mindset on a community level and on a larger level. But we are all struggling for our freedom, to be able to do, you know, going back to, you know, Lincoln, President Lincoln, one of the best presidents, most active presidents that we had, saw the injustice of not having freedom and went out to make a change that ended up costing him his life. Mm-hmm. Martin Luther King, phenomenal man.
With fear, freedom,
Man.
fear, freedom, fear, because there's always going to be somebody who's afraid of that freedom, too much freedom. You know, I was at a meeting last night, and it's with a group of for the Spanish community here, the undocumented Spanish community, and the fear that comes. I was with a group of children. So the fear and shame that comes for these kids, even just in getting educated here, of not being able to express who they are and what they are, because there's a fear that because they don't have a piece of paper that says they're a citizen of the United States of America.
And there are, you know, different sides to look at that. There's their freedom and their fear, freedom of, I guess, a nation, whether it's the United States or whatever, Japan, China, whatever it is, their freedom and what they, and sometimes freedoms butt heads.
I know. So what I mean, so I guess what the question is, so who do I want to be in that? Do you know what I mean? Who do I want to be in that struggle to make it better? How can I be to make who can I be as a person to make it better? Even if I don't agree with it, how do I show up? How do I show up at the table and express myself and, you know, give my opinions without putting down somebody else's freedom? Because I know what it feels like when somebody stifles my freedom. It's like an innate thing that I was born with, that we were all born with.
Yes.
So who am I to say?
And again, I think freedom comes down to our own personal definition of pursuing our own truth, our own happiness, our own joy.
Passions.
A passion, absolutely.
Bliss. I mean, that
this
is a good word. It
Yeah.
is a good word for freedom, I think, bliss. Because it's like, I mean, when you close your eyes and you picture freedom, what does it look like for you?
Wow, a deserted
This is
island.
not- this is G-rated. This is G-rated, Larry.
You know what? It does usually. You know, it's an island. Somewhere where I am totally free to pursue my bliss, my passion, my happiness. Where I can turn into myself and learn about myself. That's what freedom is to me.
Yeah, when I picture it, I didn't even have to close my eyes because it's always the same. I picture the wild stallions out west, the Mustangs, and I always feel like somehow I'm reincarnated and I have one of their hearts in me because it just, and it does. I get emotional when I talk about it too. When I picture them running and their beauty and their strength and their courage to be existing out there, that is freedom. That's how I picture freedom.
And have you ever personally seen that? Have you been out in the West and seen the wild Mustangs running and not on a property, but free, you know?
Okay. I was not out west when I saw it. When I lived out west, I did live out west. I lived in Arizona for a while, Scottsdale and Sedona, and I love horseback riding. So I was around horses out there. But where I did see the wild horses when I was in Costa Rica, and I was in Coita, which is a less dirt road still when I was there, and little electricity. I was on the beach. I was laying on the beach. There was nobody on this beach. It was like you're in the jungle and you walk out and you're at a beach. You know, I mean, you're literally in the jungle and you walk out and it's like, oh, here's the beach. And I was laying on the beach and I heard something, and these wild horses came running down. Now they weren't.
At you?
Yeah, they were running down the beach.
At you?
No, not at me, but I mean, I was laying on the beach and they came running down the beach.
Scared to death.
They were, oh my God. For me, it was just like, they were not as nourished as, you know, they were not as healthy as I would have liked to have seen
Free
them.
horses, though. Free.
Wild horses.
That's the
Wild
word I
horses.
was looking for.
Wild horses.
I'm
Yeah.
wondering why they weren't, because they have the ability
They're
to...
on they're up in North Carolina right now. I have a friend of mine that's up. Actually, it's my boyfriend. I have a friend of mine that's visiting up in North Carolina, and there's an island out there that has wild horses on it.
But they're not malnourished.
I don't know. I want to go see them. Because that's even closer. So once he told me that they were there, I'm like, oh, we are going to find them. But yeah, I mean, I think they looked malnourished to me. But anyway, they were still beautiful because what I did see was, again, these horses just running and doing what they wanted, and they were free. They were free. There was nobody to, you know, saddle them, put them in a cage, put them in a corral.
And this is great, and this is true. The horses, to make a correlation, though.
Don't you like that, though?
Yeah.
You talked about an island, and I talked about wild horses, and then I told a story where there was an island with
wild
wild horses.
It's called synchronicity.
I didn't even think about that till just now.
But even within the herd, is that what a group of horses is? A herd?
No, I don't think it's a herd. I don't think it's a herd
Even
for
within the
horses.
family,
Yeah.
or whatever, you know, the
What
proper
it for
word is.
horses?
It isn't herd, but whatever the family is, they still have their own personal freedoms, but yet they still have to fit into the group, the group's
Oh, yes.
ID, because you know what? Within the group, they have protection.
Mm-hmm.
Within the group, they have order.
Mm-hmm.
They know who the alpha male horse is, if that's such a thing, or not.
No, the stallion, there is one stallion, and most of the time he's the one that, has all the mares around him, and when they have the other ones, there are the younger stallions that come, and when they fight, they get up, and their hooves, and they bite each other. Yeah, it's amazing to watch.
Yeah, I haven't seen that with horses. I've actually seen that with deers, with antlers. I watched 2 deers fight brutally.
Yeah.
Scarily. But even within that group and that family of horses, they still strive for their own personal freedom, but they still fit in within their society. Oh, there's a good word.
Yeah.
They still have to, look for food together, protect the young together, raise the young together, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
If that's,
no, not with the horses anyway. But with most things, and with most anything, I mean, there is their structure. But I don't know. I mean, I think about it sometimes, and it's like, maybe it is because we've been doing it for so long or whatever. But when I get up to a 4-way stop, when I was in school, you get to a 4-way stop, and you were taught if you all kind of get there at the same time, the one to the right, the one to the right, the one to the right. For whatever reason, that doesn't seem like it exists anymore that long.
Maybe just not here in Florida.
But
I can't see over the steering wheel. No, I'm sorry.
But there's something in me that at this point in my life or whatever, and maybe it is because of we were taught it. But it's like nobody has to tell me that I have to stop at a stop sign. Do you know what I mean? It's like I recognize that I can be free to be me and still respect the world around me so that it has a flow. Because that in itself is part of my freedom. What I'm talking about is when we've got the holidays that have come that are in April, the end of March and April. We've got Passover and we've got Easter and I wrote something the other day, and I was thinking about it, that I was raised Catholic, and at a certain point I left the religious part of it, and the reason was I felt like they were telling me, this is who you are, this is how you have to be, and this is how you'll be accepted. And to me, that went against everything that I feel inside of me. That another human being walking on this planet feels that they can tell me who I am and how I'm supposed to live my life. I mean, it may come from the experiences that I've had in the past, but I can't believe that other people haven't had that feeling at a certain point in their life. And for me, it's just always been very, very strong. And I just believe that we all kind of come in with this, here to learn and have lessons. But if you don't step into your freedom and to who you are, not who your mother says you are, who your dad says you are, who the teacher says you are, who church says you are, who your boss says you are, to you, and find what fills you up, what brings bliss into your life. That to me, that's the cage. And I don't think that, and I know for a fact because I live it, that I can live and be who I want to be and respect the laws and the rules and the things like that to a point. I've broken a few, so that because you know what it is for me. It's like my intention behind everything is good. So I'm not looking at, causing harm to anybody else through my own way wanting to express myself.
Yes, and there is a point where we have personal freedoms, and that's our choice, and that's our choice to follow our bliss, our happiness, our passion, whatever it is. But we live within a larger environment, a larger society. And I'm going to use the example you set because I think that's a perfect example. Um, we do have personal freedoms, but yes, there is a stop sign there. Yes, there are 4 stop signs there, or 2, whatever it is, 4. Let's say 4. Um, Within the society, to protect ourselves, these limitations, I don't necessarily feel that they're a limitation on our freedom. They're set up for our safety and for our greater good. Think about this. You come up to a 4-way corner, or corner, I guess all corners have 4 ways. That's what makes it a corner. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And there are no stop signs. And everybody has the personal choice to just go
But
and
that's
go.
what I mean. And that's it right there. I don't think I would just go, even though I have that heart and I live my life and I do this. I would look to the guy to the right and hope that I would start something. Maybe that's what I mean.
But you know what? You learned this long before you ever got behind a wheel, long before you ever drove. This was something that you watched your parents do, whoever you got into a car with. This was something that was instilled in us. That yes, we want our personal freedoms, but yes, we have to respect the greatest good. If we just flew through that corner or intersection rather, without stopping and without looking either way, because that was our personal freedom and it was our, but not only ourselves,
we would cause harm.
somebody else,
Right.
somebody else.
And it still happens every day. I mean, it still does happen every day.
Absolutely.
But when you look at what we and tie that into, see that there's just so many gray lines, I think, because it's like, okay, so then go back to what we were talking about originally, which is, in the Supreme Court right now, they're talking about, the rights for gay marriage and a lot of other things, but that's what's big right now. Who does that hurt? Do you know what I mean? It's like it's a concept. Because we were raised since we were little that this is how it's supposed to be. But I'm just putting it out there.
And
you don't have to answer, Larry.
Personal freedoms is, one of the things that we strive for in our spirituality is to be able to follow our bliss, follow our passion, follow our happiness. I hope that some of this was some information that you were able to use today. I hope Sharon and I were able to share some of this. Do come to our website. It's listed right at the bottom, www.AmazingUniverseTV.com.
You're free to come anytime you like.
And blog and put in information and be part of the community. Come. And until next time,
Remember,
there's always a positive side.